Story 1. The subscription everything model is becoming completely unsustainable for the average person. Software, entertainment, heated seats in a car, grocery delivery. Eventually, people's incomes will not be able to handle 1,000 tiny monthly payments. Something has got to give. Story 2. I'm afraid that a debt bubble is brewing. Auto foreclosures are climbing, and the same is true for homes, quite rapidly. July saw a 13% increase from the year before in home foreclosures. This is in an already prohibitive market to enter. I think it's crazy, but I'm not an expert. Story 3. The high cost of housing and mortgage interest rates makes it difficult. I cannot imagine being a young person today trying to afford a $750,000 house. Story 4. Antibiotic resistance is making basic surgeries deadly again. Story 5. Pension crisis. The number of people saving enough to retire is alarmingly low. Story 6. Hopefully Betelgeuse will become a supernova. I would really like to witness that. Edit. I understand the timeline aspect of this. Story 7. Subprime car market. The volume of debt in car financing is substantial, and the resale values of cars coming off lease are much lower than expected. The Porsche Taycan is a perfect example of this. Porsche faces significant financial losses because it cannot achieve the book value for these cars. Story 8. The whole mass surveillance and legal identification for everything, supposedly to protect the children, is happening everywhere. Mega corporations such as Meta and Google are collecting every bit of data they can. People will either push back strongly, or privacy will completely disappear. Story 9. The job market in the United States is collapsing. This could be due to artificial intelligence, corporate greed, or a combination of factors. However, this situation feels different from previous times because there is little awareness or market correlation like in past recessions. We are not currently in a recession. Unless you are actively looking for a job, you probably do not understand how bad the job market is. Story 10. There is a lot of anger today. When I was a child or even a young adult, I did not see this level of anger where people are so upset that they might hurt someone over a minor incident. The things that are said and done indicate that this anger is increasing. The anger does not come from one specific issue but from several different issues. Most of the time, it is mostly talk with little action, but I fear that those who are very angry may commit acts of violence against people they see as enemies. This type of person is very dangerous to anyone they encounter. Story 11. Car prices in the United States are increasing. Eventually, we will see more low-income Americans turning to motorcycles as a daily mode of transportation because cars have become unaffordable. This situation is reminiscent of Vietnam. Story 12. I hope it is Betelgeuse supernova. That would be very cool to see. Story 13. I believe as the gap between the haves and have-nots continues to widen, we are heading towards potentially violent times, and we are already seeing it. Lootings are increasing tremendously. How many celebrities and athletes' homes are broken into while they are out of town? The smash and grab incidents or the mob smash and grab incidents? With social media enabling groups or mobs of people to quickly come together, it seems likely that this behavior will only increase, and the mobs will only get bigger, which could overwhelm law enforcement. Story 14. Major Pacific Northwest earthquake causing loss in coastline elevation and significant flooding changes to the coast, although I truly hope not. Story 15. I hope I am gone before Mother Earth throws a tantrum and does a soft reset. Story 16. Kessler syndrome. It is basically a runaway effect of debris in orbit. The more debris there is, the more likely catastrophic collisions become, causing even more debris. This debris then causes additional collisions, continuing the cycle until space becomes inaccessible due to billions of untrackable pieces of metal hurtling around the planet at tens of thousands of miles per hour. Story 17. Biological terrorism created by a crazed extremist using gene editing equipment ordered from the internet. Story 18. The education crisis. Students are expressing a lack of basic skills and common sense, which will definitely cause problems when they become adults. Current students will be very underprepared for life after school. Listening to teachers' stories reveals the challenges coming in the next 10 years. Story 19. Chronic stress is the leading trigger behind most health problems. Story 20. There are many severe tragedies approaching that are too late to avoid. One stands out as the most serious in terms of the humanitarian crisis it will cause. India is becoming too hot for humans to survive. No country will easily absorb the large numbers of people fleeing inhospitable areas. The situation will be very bad. To put this into context, if the trend of increasing air conditioning use continues at the current rate, India will use more electricity to power just air conditioners than the entire electricity consumption of the continent of Africa for all purposes in a year by 2050. That is not far away. Story 21. One concern that has been bothering me for a long time is the fear of when the next big solar flare or coronal mass ejection will hit. If an event as powerful as the Carrington event occurs, we might have to say goodbye to almost all technology and power for several months to a few years. To be honest, we are due for a major event anytime soon. Here is a great episode about what might happen from the Y-Files. Story 22. Russia's thawing tundra will release enough methane to kill many people and drive more wars for land by its leaders. China has 20% of the world's population but less than 10% of its water, much of which is not potable and is contaminated. 1/3 of its territory is not arable, with much of it mountainous, rocky, or desert, making it undesirable and difficult to live on. They are in a dire situation, and the rest of the world will soon be affected by climate refugees, land grabs, and wars over fishing, crops, and livestock. Story 23. The big earthquake in Los Angeles was very strong. I was very young when the 1994 earthquake happened. Story 24. The last time inequality was this bad across the West, during the Gilded Age, it led to repeated revolutions and wars. Eventually, the rich figured out that paying taxes to fund welfare and income redistribution was a better option than facing public uprisings. They forget these lessons, and here we are again. I predict we will witness an explosion in the violence inherent in the system. Story 25. Mass heat deaths, drought, and survival migration from affected areas. If people think migrants are a problem now, in 20 years it will be like that zombie movie where they crawl over corpses to enter the compound. They are not after your belongings or your jobs. They are seeking a climate at least 5 degrees cooler because wet bulb temperatures are forcing them to move. Story 26. People not having basic necessities to live definitely brings out the worst in people. Story 27. Higher education. I'm not against universities, but in the last 30 years, it has gone from something aspirational and meaningful to a corporate money grab and worthless. You are already seeing graduates going into entry-level positions. What is the point of putting yourself into tens of thousands of pounds of debt to be an office junior or a checkout assistant at a supermarket? Once people realize it is all just a waste, admission numbers will drop, universities will go bankrupt, and all of these tower blocks built of cardboard and sold as student accommodation will be worthless. Story 28. Social Security. I am never going to see that money. It is essentially legal theft at this point for anyone under 50. Story 29. At this point, I think an easier question to answer is, what is not a ticking time bomb that will explode in my lifetime? Story 30. The housing market bubble in the United States. House prices are extremely high. If 2008 was any indication, there will be massive turmoil once the bubble bursts. Story 31. The delegation of congressional authority to the executive branch over the past several decades. Story 32. Anything you can think of seems to be happening more or less at the same time in the present. I was born in 1991 and have become relatively successful personally and professionally. Instead of maintaining this positive trend, all kinds of external problems have arisen. Pandemic, war, economic crisis, nuclear threats, social collapse, various conflicts, climate change, and more. All of this is led by individuals in their 70s or older, such as Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Viktor Orban, Ali Khamenei, and Benjamin Netanyahu, who apparently do not have anything better to do with their lives. At this point, there is no time bomb that I expect will not go off during my lifetime. Story 33. 401k contributions are allowed to be invested in cryptocurrency and private equity. Trillions of dollars tied to people's retirement accounts will enter high volatility markets. Story 34. Hopefully some sort of political revolution that eliminates the two-party system. Story 35. The critical energy infrastructure hub in Portland, Oregon, is essentially a primed megadisaster, currently vulnerable to the effects of a large earthquake off the Oregon coast. It is a massive facility for agricultural and petrochemical transfer and storage. Many of the tanks are not up to current seismic codes, and the facility is built on alluvial soils that will liquefy with sustained shaking. The combined chemical spills will form toxic and flammable clouds, and human loss would be extensive as traffic lanes become congested and the river burns. Solutions are difficult because stakeholders are diverse and numerous, with shared responsibility for not addressing the problem earlier. The situation is truly apocalyptic. Story 36. Our national debt is increasing as many current politicians use their positions for personal gain, knowing that they will be out of office or deceased when the real problems arise. Story 37. Climate change. This is not a Jesus is coming scenario. People often talk about it, but think of our planet's climate like a jumbo jet. Humans are like the strong man with a rope trying to pull it. It has massive inertia and takes time to move, but once it starts moving, the man begins jogging with the huge aircraft. Our planet's climate has massive inertia and has been resisting the changes we have been making, but it is starting to move. Unless it is balanced out, it will begin to accelerate. Sir David Attenborough made an entire documentary on the subject. He has spent over 70 years traveling the world, producing nature series, and has witnessed the changes occurring. Our planet will be dramatically altered within this century if we do not start taking serious action. Story 38. China invading and taking over Taiwan is having a domino effect, pushing us toward World War III. Story 39. Data rights are all-encompassing, and as Americans, we basically have none. Most of the rights we have come from Europe. You do not even legally own your iPhone you are reading this on. Read the contracts. Story 40. As someone from West Tennessee, I am not looking forward to the new Madrid fault activating. Story 41. Canadian housing market. I know it has been like this for almost 30 years now, but it really does feel like we are at a breaking point. I am not really sure if the idea of that gives me hope, as it is frankly the only reasonable way for me to ever own a home in my lifetime, or fills me with dread, as our gross domestic product is basically supported by real estate. Either way, it is going to be one significant explosion. Story 42. Endgame capitalism is fast approaching. The 20th century was the golden age of capitalism, but the system itself is not self-correcting or sustainable as many claim. It eventually devolves into what we are heading towards: a complete collapse. The system exponentially benefits the top. In the final stages, 100 people will own everything, with a small wealthy minority behind them while the rest struggle to survive. We are not there yet, but we are not far either. People will start to revolt, and there will be an irreversible class war. Story 43. If things continue the way they are, we will very soon have a global water crisis on our hands. Soon after, agriculture could become impossible or nearly so in many parts of the world. We are absolutely not prepared for what is coming, and it will hit the world like a speeding train. Story 44. Student loans burden many people with excessive debt to earn degrees that offer low pay. Large sums of money go to schools that charge high tuition fees to fund the salaries of professors and administrators who are paid excessively. Unless reforms occur, the American higher education system will enter a decline. Story 45. Late-stage capitalism. Some people call it end-stage capitalism. It goes by many names. The idea is that this pattern we're seeing with wealth inequality isn't just a short-term problem. This is a long-term problem baked into the very idea of capitalism. As long as capital, also known as money, earns a higher return than labor, wealth inequality will continue to skyrocket. We are nearing the end of what capitalism can give us as a civilization. It has done a remarkable job getting us to this point, but the whole system is woefully inefficient for the centuries to come. We are on the cusp of cheap, renewable energy, artificial intelligence, and the kind of automation that will produce an enormous amount of wealth. There will be shantytowns in America and massive unemployment on par with the Great Depression before things get any better. I hope people remember to bring their pitchforks because the people are going to have their day in the sun once again. To be honest, I doubt many people in France realized their whole world was about to collapse as the French Revolution began. A year or two later, kings and queens were being guillotined in the public square. Things can get really crazy when massive numbers of people hit a tipping point. Can get real crazy, real fast. Story 46. It is more a matter of which of the many time bombs will go off first and then worsen the others. Story 47. If people aged 30 or younger cannot afford a house, what will they buy? Recreational vehicles, tiny homes? Or will they rent apartments until they die? Will they become homeless? This will be a crisis. Story 48. Antibiotic resistance is a serious concern. A simple cut or urinary tract infection becoming dangerous again is alarming. Story 49. All the money being invested into artificial intelligence companies before their product has even been developed is similar to the dot-com growth before the bubble burst. The bubble will burst, and large technology companies will benefit. Story 50. The internet is both amazing and horrifying. It may ultimately destroy humankind, likely through the complete breakdown of social cohesion. Ironically. Story 51. Most of Generation Alpha already cannot read or pay attention. I hope that their parents think that giving their children technology to quiet them was worth it. Story 52. The United States national debt is significant, as is the national debt of many countries. Story 53. Water scarcity affects many regions. Militarized fascism is a growing concern. I believe we will see a broader military conflict in the next 10 years, likely involving United States military intervention in Mexico. There will be many more artificial intelligence layoffs and general social cannibalism. Story 54. There is no way Donald Trump's presidency will end normally, not even as normally as his previous term. Story 55. I believe we are one major event away from another civil war or civil unrest here in the United Kingdom. The tension has been growing for years and feels like it could all start at any moment. Story 56. Reddit. Some of you are legitimately off your rockers, and this website is not helping. Story 57. I think we are actually closing in on this one faster than anything else I have seen mentioned. Societal nihilism. The complete breakdown of the social contract has resulted in generational suicidality. We have seen this expressed across cultures, nations, and the globe in many different ways. Whether it is the homeless movement, the lie flat movement, the hikikomori subclass, the men going their own way movement, the van life movement, and others, these are all expressions of grief and rejection by portions of society who feel alienated, isolated, and unable to integrate meaningfully into the world. It should be noted that this is merely a first-wave effect. These are people who are cognizant enough to recognize that they are a burden and simply do not want to suffer or cause anyone else to suffer. As such, they withdraw from participating in life altogether. But there is more than one wave of social outcasts. Not everyone is going to just lay down and die. After a critical mass is reached, wave 2 of this movement will transpire. I would argue we are seeing the foundation of this wave emerge now. Flash mobs, gangs, cartels, lightly organized resistance, militias, and so on. These people are also outcasts, but they are not going to just sit back and take it. They can do and will do what they must to survive. If that means assault, murder, robbery, terrorism, and so forth, then so be it. After that wave comes the scariest one of all. The maniacs, the psychopathic savants. These are the people who decide that humanity is not worth saving. They are death dealers, tyrants, revolutionary guards, mad scientists, and mass murderers. These are the people so rejected by society that they see society itself as the enemy. The poisoners, the bombers, the genocidal actors, the torturers, the religious sycophants. They do not just take what they need. They revel in human misery and suffering. They become convinced that it is part of the human condition, that it is owed to all living things, and that they must distribute that suffering without mercy. The thing about societal nihilism is that once it really gets rolling, it takes generations to slow down. It is like a freight train. Easy to start, takes a while to ramp up, and very difficult to stop once it has momentum. People lose faith in humans on a basic level, which makes communication, cooperation, and collaboration nearly impossible. This looks like many small-scale disputes, similar to Greek city-states, Mongolian tribes, Japanese clans, Norse tribes, and so on, that eventually boil over into larger and larger clashes until the wolves come out. There are no innocents in these periods, no victims, only survivors. It breaks down to me and mine versus the world. And historically, it is the worst outcome for humanity. It has been so every single time it has happened. The most well-understood example of this is called the Dark Ages, when society is believed to have been set back hundreds of years due to the loss of knowledge and progress. I feel like we are speeding right toward a new Dark Age, except this one will be 20 times worse because there are more of us, fewer resources, and more advanced killing techniques and technology. There is a reason many wealthy people are building bunkers. Story 58. I have not heard any updates about our limited helium supplies recently. Have we resolved that issue? Story 59. I think there will be a climate change event that will make all the deniers realize the severity of the situation. Unfortunately, it will involve the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, but it will be undeniably caused by climate change. Then everyone will be eager to take action, but by then it will be too late. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.